just in case we need it. So welcome to the Mexico Study Abroad and Teaching presentation. We are really excited to invite you to come. What I think this is going to be like year 9, maybe, that we have been doing this trip. It
Wow.
is a trip to Mexico in the area in central Mexico, and it's organized through the Texas A&M System Collaborative. Well, it has been up to now. The director of the collaborative retired. So we're kind of on our own in this case. But here you see a picture of a major cathedral that's just really beautiful in San Miguel. Um, and you will see lots more pictures as we move through. So let me just tell you a little bit about the purpose of this trip. It's 10 days, and it is during the May Mini. There is no charge for the May Mini. It's free of charge. It will show on your transcript, but it'll be 0 credit hours. That's how we're able to make sure that it falls within the guise of the university as an enrolled student without messing up people's programs, because some people
Right.
can't exceed their hours. So we try to work within that. Our purpose is to develop a rich cultural understanding, intercultural understanding between, of course, whoever's traveling, Americans, and in this case, Mexico. We have our own ideas of the Mexican people and population based on our lives here in the United States. So this offers a different perspective. We explore Mexican history and art and culture through lectures, through visiting museums. Where we're staying has some authentic, like Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera paintings. So it's really pretty exquisite where we get to stay. And you'll see some pictures of that in just a minute. We also take excursions to other cultural sites near the area of San Miguel de Allende. But that's the fun part. I'm not going to say that teaching isn't fun. We love what we're doing. Most people who come want to be teachers, but that's our one of our main goals is to teach ESL in a cross-curricular fashion to the Mexican students in a really tiny rural community called Las Clavellinas. And so just to give you some perspective, all of this area is in the state of Guanajuato, which is right smack in the middle of the country. And then Guanajuato is also a city. And then there's San Miguel de Allende, which is another city. And we stay just outside of San Miguel de Allende. I'll show you a picture of where that's going to be in just a second. But that's just to give you a little perspective, if you're not familiar with that geography. So what else? And we do the teaching through 4 different content areas. We have students that we put into groups like different learning stations and such. So here's what things look like. We in the past, this has been going on since 2017, and so these are just some pictures of various different teams of teachers that have gone through the years. This one, I was involved in this trip, and this was our group from last year, and this was the group I helped lead the year before. These 2 groups came before my time, but one of these professors, I got to find her picture. She's in there. I think that's her, Dr. Corp is in there somewhere. And she's the one who got me involved when I said, oh, yes, I'd love to take over that trip. Because this is something that's really I'm very passionate about. And I think Mrs. Castillo is trying to connect. I see her audio trying to work. Rain interferes. I don't know if it does that to you guys, but it does interfere with us.
Sometimes, yeah.
Is up the internet. So here's where we're staying. This is our home in Mexico. I don't know if you can make out the lettering, but it's called Hacienda Santa Clara. There she is. Hello, Mrs. Castillo. How are you? Oh, she's in and out. I know you're having tech trouble. I'm sorry. We're talking with Brianna, who is a graduate student. So she learned about us through the Office of International Programs. So we're just going through the slideshow at this point in time. But you can see that this is a gated community. Here's the gates, there's guards right here and if you come in, even when they know who we are, we have to stop and be allowed to enter. It's a huge area inside, but it's guarded and 24/7. One, because there's very precious things in there, but also because we want it's meant to be safe. And we want you to know that you are in, this is one of the safest places there is to travel in Mexico. So here's just a smorgasbord of pictures from the inside of the hacienda. This is actually a picture of my screensaver that I included because it just shows the beauty of this. It's a night picture here in the middle. There's a swimming pool. It's the gardens are kept beautifully. Here's another view of the gardens from another area. This is a view from the second floor of the dorms where all of you will stay. And you're looking at, I think this was where they do a Temazcal celebration type of thing. And here's, for example, the directors have their rooms and offices in here, but you can see how far back all of the land and area goes. There's a church on premise. This is, again, another one of our groups. There is, although you have to bring in your priest, but they have a church. That's what happens in the rural areas. You got to make arrangements. And this is the dining area and presentation area where we have some of our lectures. They have an art lecturer and an archaeologist that they bring in for us to share their expertise. And believe me, they are experts. And I know these pictures are a little bit odd. And you can't see everything well, but we have some more. Another picture, the beauty of the flowers and the fruit is just phenomenal.
Wow.
So this is how the program operates. What do you expect to do there? We will travel on a Friday. Typically, we've always traveled on a Friday and stayed 2 weekends and 1 week. That makes our 10 days. So we leave on a Friday. When we arrive, our flights usually in the morning. There's not too many flights that go into the airport where I think there's 3 flights a day. So we take the morning flight so we can get in midday and be able to make sure that we have dinner there. They give us a tour and make us feel at home, and everybody gets settled in. Then on Saturdays and Sunday, we go for some of our excursions. We go to Guanajuato, which is the Silver City, because it was founded on silver mines. Nope, she's saying no, we don't go there. I always get the order wrong. Where do we go?
No, you're right. You're right. I was saying no to my child that's asking me questions. I'm like, nope, not right now.
Sorry.
But no, yes, definitely. So
Okay,
we do go
we
to
have an
Guanajuato, and that is where they so they used to mine there, and the built is so they had a flooding, and now it's like tunnels, so we get to go through the tunnels, which is a lot of fun. This place is also called the Cuna de la Independencia, which translates to the crib of the independence. And so they have a lot of cultural museums. They have one that takes you through the entire history of how they came to get their independence. They also have Diego Rivera's home is there for when he was a child, and they've turned it into a museum. They have a beautiful theater that we have yet to get the chance to attend because every time they're doing some kind of restoration to it. But hopefully we'll be able to attend this time, and then they do have some universities there in the central area.
I'm making a note to check into that theater thing because that would be really awesome to be able to do. So basically we play on Saturday and Sunday, visiting the sites, going shopping, and doing what we need to. And we always travel as a group. Our transportation is private, so and vetted for us, so everything's prearranged. And then during the week, Monday through Friday, we teach. So we spend the morning planning. We go with plans. We are prepared to a certain degree, but as you know, anytime that you enter a situation, we have to monitor and adjust and deal with whatever is actually present. So we find ourselves readjusting in the mornings and preparing more additional different or whatever it is we need materials. There's a couple of days during the week where we might extend the trip, where we might go to like San Miguel because it's not that far, and we might have dinner there one night or do a little shopping because we had a special request to do something different. But Monday through Fridays, the work is the work time. And then if there's lectures, we have those at the Hacienda and they're in the evenings. We even get to learn from the kitchen staff how to make authentic salsa, which is, you get to make it yourself the old fashioned way. It's kind of fun. And they leave us with all these phenomenal recipes. Everything is cooked in-house, fresh.
Wow.
I mean, to the point that you drink freshly squeezed juice every day for breakfast and lunch.
Wow.
Because that's just the way it is. I mean, it's if you've eaten Mexican food here, you may have become accustomed to a certain palate,
Mhm.
which will change when you go there because it's really delicious. And but there's no junk food, there's no vending machines. There's no Uber Eats. If you get hungry after hours, hopefully you bought some snacks with you because and we do that when we're off in our journeys because there's nowhere else to get food, but they feed us well, so we don't tend to be hungry. Then Saturday we have another excursion. We go, let's see, Saturday I think is the day that we go to the pyramids. There's a local pyramid
Correct.
that is new, relatively new. I mean, the pyramid's not new, I should say. The discovery or exploration of that
Right.
pyramid is relatively recent in comparison to the other ones. And
Wow.
the archaeologist that takes us on that tour knows that one really well and really treats us to I mean, he walks in and he approaches and he prays to the gods and speaks the native language, not just Spanish, but the language of I don't know I don't know the name of the
The
language.
indigenous people there. The
Yeah.
Natual, I think that's what it's called, Natual.
Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly. And so then Sunday we get ready to go and we pack up and we usually leave after lunch. So here's some picture so you got an idea of what the trip is all about.
Mhm.
Just some of our pictures of some time that we have together. Everything we do is in collaboration. We plan the lessons together. We help each other out. We work in teams and they give us a workspace. As I said, this place was established by the Texas A&M system. So we have our hosts have a relationship with them. So they've provided us with a lot of good resources here. These are some more examples of the school where we are Monday through Friday as we plan and we prepare in the morning. Then we have a box lunch that we take with us to eat on our ride there and then spend about 2.5 to 3 hours teaching in the afternoon. You can see how rural it is just by looking at some of these pictures.
Yes.
This is the school itself, but more often than not, we were at a community member's house teaching.
Wow.
And we'll show you some pictures. We can explain some of that better. But this is the road
Yes.
to the school. You might encounter a goat or a peacock or a horse. You have no, I mean, every day it's a little bit
Wow.
not something that we typically have to deal with here. And here's just some pictures of us teaching and working with the kids. Now, most of these children are elementary. They're usually early childhood in elementary. We do have some older children that come because maybe they're supporting these kids, but the reality is those older kids are working. And this is after school. So they go to school in the morning and then they come to us voluntarily in the second half of
Oh,
the day.
okay.
Once the word is out that we are there, they come in droves. They put out the word, they're back, because we've been doing this for 7 years. So Mrs. Castillo will explain, like, this little guy, he's just a real sweetheart. They
My
look for
favorite.
us. And we've seen them grow up, some of them.
Wow.
So they really enjoy working with us and they're eager to learn. And that's something that a lot of our students who have gone said, they're not accustomed to people wanting to learn this much. Because here we go to school because we're obligated. They don't
Right.
have to do this. More
Wow.
pictures. Now this one is not at the school. As I mentioned, there's a community member who has a good, close relationship with the Marvins, who are our hosts there. And they built this extra room, which you can see in the background here. This is the inside of it, to as a library for their community. And this is on their home. Their house is right behind this tarp over here. But the classroom's still empty and just maybe like an all multi-purpose room. So we teach inside and we teach outside. We're on the floor and we're in makeshift tables. We make it work. We do what we need to do to work with these kids. And so some more, this is the school again. This an example of one of the classrooms. This is inside the classroom at the house. These are at the school.
Okay.
But we just have two, we couldn't decide which pictures to include. Here's that
No,
little-
they're all great.
they're just, it's really neat. And, you know, the teachers will tell you how much they fall in love with these kids, and there's tears by the time they leave. And we dance with them,
Wow.
we sing with them. We just try to have fun because this is enrichment for them. This is not, they're not preparing for a test. We want them to
Right.
just feel a little bit better and smarter when we leave. So we try to reinforce concepts that they already know. Some more teachers, I think they were getting, these were final hugs that day.
Wow.
Oh, and here I am, I dressed up as a bee, so we might end up teaching with you and we do what we have to, you know, because
Yeah.
it's fun. And because these are pre-service teachers that are going on the trip, this is an experience for them to beef up their resume as becoming teachers and experience something a little different. So here we are working. I think one of the key things we want to stress is that this is very much a collaborative experience.
Mhm.
We have to, if you want to be a team player, if you are going to be here. And we've had students that usually are preparing for elementary, but last year we had, for example, an agriculture student come who had just graduated. So she would be in a similar situation to you. But so she like graduated, and then within a week she was on the plane coming with us.
Oh, wow.
So she was secondary level. And so, which was very different. She didn't speak any Spanish. And these girls took her, all the rest of the group in this particular year did speak Spanish. And so they took her under their wing, and she walked away she just couldn't talk enough about the experience she had, and she fit in
Wow.
really well. So it works.
And she learned a little Spanish on the way.
She absolutely did. We had fun with her. So here's some examples of the cultural experiences.
Mhm.
Mrs. Castillo, I know we can't see you, but can you see our screen? Do you want to talk about it, or shall I carry on?
I can definitely see your screen. Yes.
Okay.
So for our culture experience, we already touched a little bit on them, but yes, we do go to museums. We go to the pyramid. I met on our first trip. I met this gentleman that that does a special kind of presentation about the mines, because they used to mine a lot of gold there. And
Wow.
so he kind of walks us through the whole experience of what it was to mine back then. Like, he has some authentic resources that they had when they were there, and he does this whole presentation. He lets us know like what they did and how they did it to get light over there. He lets us like touch and hold the things that they had to carry up a mine without like just their feet and their hands. And I mean, the experience is absolutely beautiful.
Wow.
And then he allows us to go in, and we go down into the one of the old mines. And depending on how it is, sometimes it's very full of water, and other times it's not. And then he's had some of the girls that follow him into like the mine, and they follow the water, and the water is like super cold because, of course, you know, it's groundwater. And so they really enjoyed that experience as well. And I mean, we just really get to explore a lot. Like Dr. Slay said, whenever it comes to San Miguel Allende, we go to the local market, and we get to just go the whole way, all the way through. And it's like blocks and blocks long that you get to go through. So they do have like a lot of handmade things there, because a lot of people, that's how they make a living. So do be prepared if you like trinkets and things like that. Be prepared, take some money, because you'll definitely see that.
Okay. Wow.
It's a very, San Miguel is a very big like art experience. And
an
so
artist
they
that-
do have a lot of art. They have a lot of like Gothic era churches there. I mean, the church there that you see on the bottom right-hand side,
Mhm.
that's one of the most famous churches that they
Wow.
have there. They also have the one in the middle that you see the men statues on the top. That's El Teatro Juárez that I mentioned. And the one to the left is the picture of the church inside. I mean,
Wow.
they're very famous there for their doors, their architecture, and just all the eccentric work that it has, to the point where whenever anybody buys any kind of homes there, anything, they have to do renovations conserving the natural state of the area, because that's one of the reasons. I mean, you go and you have cobble streets there.
Wow.
Well, we tell everybody, don't bring your fanciest clothes because, or your high heels, because your feet will hurt.
You get what?
Not everybody listens, but I will tell you, you'll do a lot of walking and
Yes.
want to be comfortable when you come with us.
Right.
So
Yeah.
here's just, we're
So
outside.
Uh-huh. The university.
Oh, the university.
Mhm.
Okay.
Just outside the university. That was one of the pictures that we captured inside the tunnels
Yep.
in Guanajuato.
Mhm. And so San Miguel is also a World Heritage site.
Oh,
So
wow.
we get a walking tour of going through San Miguel. And that I think you'll see a lot of local people there that are in, where you have the mariachis and things that are going on in the square, and you might find yourself dancing or get pulled into a dance, as I did, depending on what's happening. But it makes the journey all that more fun as we're there. And
Yeah, and I think every year, so they're very big on Catholic people are there, and so they celebrate a lot of the saints. And I think every year that we've gone, we can hear like off once we're in the hacienda, the fireworks going off, because they have
Wow.
a party for them. And so that's what we walked into the first day that we got there. We went
Oh my
straight
goodness.
into that, and then we went straight into town, and that's what it was full of. It was full of they were celebrating one of the saints, and they had like this whole dance and thing in the middle of the plaza there.
so here's the pyramids that we were describing here. And here's our guide, the sage that leads us through, and he's describing what it is, at least from the model, before we enter in and excursion. And I mean, he'll tell you exactly what the names of the plants are and why they exist and what their purpose was and how
Wow.
why it's important, as well as the history behind it.
I
So
mean,
that's
when he speaks, you can hear the passion that he has.
Right.
Like for all of his, I mean, of course, he wouldn't be an architect if he wasn't, but you can hear the passion in him. And he was writing his dissertation actually on this pyramid.
Oh,
So he's very, very knowledgeable. These
Yeah.
pictures that you see here, that's our experience there where we were able to go into the mine. As you can see, the lady on the left, the water, you see how clear it is, and the water came up to her knees. She was one of the brave ones that went all the way into the cave in the water.
oh my goodness.
And here,
Wow.
this was one where these were actual carts that they used that would go into the mine. And so
The mine part.
they flipped her. We can still hear her squeal, but no, it was fun. And here they're talking about the kind of equipment. Nobody was injured, but it was a fun experience to kind of get a feel of what authentic miners might have had to deal with at that time.
Wow.
Food, lots of food.
Food.
And, it's
definitely not the time to be on a diet.
no. But I don't know, we were always very satisfied, and I think these are the meals that we bought out. As I mentioned, we have three full meals, and they come with 3 courses. You start with your juice, you start with a bowl of soup, then you have your main platter, and then you have your dessert every single time. So
Wow.
there's no reason
You forgot the best part, the tortillas with the cheese
Oh, that's right.
at the beginning.
at the
Yeah.
beginning. Yep.
And we always
So
get handmade tortillas, and then they put out fresh cheese and the salsa's out, so you're eating on that, and then it's the soup. But I honestly, the tortillas is my favorite part.
well, and then
Sounds
here's
great.
last year we were able to add some experiences looking at industrial farming because it's right there in the region. So we
Right.
had old-fashioned farming over here where you have a plow and we actually held the plow and only walked just a few feet and wore ourselves out. And here is just a view of the extensive, it looks like they're out in a field, but this was, I think, came from one of our excursions looking at the way the more modern industrial farming is going on. So that was different and something enlightening to see. So this is the stuff everybody wants to know. How much is it going to cost me? So the whole trip really does cost $3,000, but that's all inclusive other than your own personal spending money and 3 meals that you'll
Right.
pay for when you're out in town. Okay. But so it includes the airfare. We all travel together from DFW to which airport is it?
El León de Basillo.
Okay.
It's the León de Basillo Airport.
I always say it wrong, so I had to ask. Okay. Then, and we stay in a dorm. So the rooms, I think there were there's 8 beds or something like that in these, but it's huge. This is not a little tiny room.
Right.
So there's lots of space for everyone. And then it pays for the
Everyone has like a little mini closet, and then a little safe box as well, and then a night table as well.
Yes. And you have our private transportation and insurance, all of that's included. But our Office of International Programs has been generous and said, hey, but we will give you $1,000 because we know that there's money out there, but you have to apply for it as you understand the process. So it's possible we can get more than 1,000, but we don't know that. They told us 1,000. Tell them we'll give you 1,000. So I'm crossing my fingers that after you guys apply, they will be benevolent and say, hey, we want to give you some more money. I will be
Right.
applying to a separate fund as a faculty member to support our group. And they gave us money, but the application's not out yet. So the way that we'll pay this $2,000 balance then is there's a deposit on the 31st, which is next week, that is due on the 31st, along with your application and both of the 2 applications for $300. And then we just broke it out so that it wouldn't be such a burden to have installments in March and April, and then everything has to be paid up by the time we leave. So the May 6th deadline is right before the end our trip.
Okay.
We want everything in hand.
Got it.
Let's see. Oh, I'm not clicking the right screen. Other expenses, as I mentioned, are 3 meals. You said you traveled last year, so you must have your passport in hand.
Yes.
So that's
Yeah.
great. That's something that's on the application. So that's easy. That's one of the hardest things that somebody missed out last year because they couldn't get
Oh,
the passport in time, and it takes so long.
it does.
And we say $200
Another
per
one that
person.
came right to the cusp of it. Like she got her passport, I think, 2 days before we left.
She was
And
nervous. It was nerve-wracking. Yeah. We recommend $200 spending money. You bring what you want. But you don't have to bring a lot. Things are not expensive there by comparison to now, if you go into some of the really super high-end stores, you will spend more money, but
Right.
I stay away from
Say
them.
if you're a shopper, and 1, if you're a shopper, 2, if you've never been to Mexico, I would probably take a lot more than that. But they do in most places over there take credit cards because it's highly traveled.
Yes.
Very tourist, so they will take credit cards. But usually the vendors that are just native to there, they get charged the fee, and so they charge you the fee so that they can actually make some winnings out of their things. And so you are welcome to bring a credit card or bring some cash as well.
Okay.
Good to know. Yeah.
And let's see.
And your bank can provide you with pesos if you want to go ahead and exchange them and go. I know the first year that we went, some of the ladies, I guess they were very nervous about traveling. And so when we got on in the airplane, they didn't eat. And I was like, hey, are y'all sure? And they're like, no. So by the time that we got to Mexico, they were like, oh my God, we're so hungry. And some of the vendors over there, sometimes all they take is pesos, like at the airport. And so they were like, we just want to eat. And so you can, if you go to your bank, they call it ordering. And so you order pesos and you say, I want $100 worth of pesos. And so they'll order them for you, and then they'll have them ready for you, and they'll give you your time frame. So usually if you're thinking of doing that, I would go ahead and put in the order maybe 2-3 weeks before.
Okay.
Yeah. So what are the expectations for this trip and for receiving scholarship money? You have to register for the May Mini, as we talked about it. There's no money involved in that. You have to attend certain planning meetings. We have already kind of set out a tentative timeline. Maybe I think our first meeting we're trying to do in the middle of February, and then we'll probably get another one in late April, maybe the beginning of March. We try not to do too much ahead of time because everybody's in school. And then once we hit May, where, we meet, and all our meetings will be virtual, except for we will meet at least one time in May before we leave, so that we can see the faces and actually say hello to the people we will be traveling with. So that's building that community is important to us. We ask that you, of course, meet deadlines and payment deadlines and all of that sort of thing, and be collaborative with your peers. Complete the assignments. And you're going to say, what assignments? It's not stressful. I'll tell you in just a second. And of course, have fun. We do use Google and Google Classroom mainly because it's the easiest way to manage a lot of the work that we do, rather than D2L and such. Here's some of the dates that we've planned tentatively. I think I need to change this to the 15th because at one time, I think that's what we wrote down next, but typically I think it's on a Wednesday. Why? Because I picked Wednesday because it was open for me. And so we can change that. Once we have our group solid, we'll determine what's best. The meeting place when we do meet together will probably be either at the Check in McKinney or in Mesquite because it's most central. But again, we'll poll the group and find out what is best. And then we leave on the 13th. And so as far as the assignments are concerned, we do ask that you journal every day. We will give you journaling prompts, and we even hand out the little journal. Last year I brought little journals for you guys because I thought it would be nice. And so I did. You can bring whatever paper you want, but everybody is required to keep a journal and be reflective of their experience. And then just participate in these lesson planning activities and be willing to go with the flow with all of that. There's no major papers. We might do a little advanced reading and that sort of thing to get a little bit acclimated before we leave. That's part of that pre-travel business. But the trip itself is your coursework. So that's why the reflection in the meetings that we have that are so very important. So we'll meet and collaborate there. And that's where a lot of it comes in. Some people say, gosh, can't we just have some free time? We do keep you busy. And you do have free time. And if you don't speak the language, sometimes one is a little bit more tired because you're working so hard to acclimate to something new. But that's just the nature of international travel. So there we have it. What questions can I answer?
Oh my goodness. No, that was a very thorough PowerPoint. So thank you. Yeah, it sounds like a great trip. I'm definitely interested. I do have another meeting with another professor doing a different study abroad trip later this week.